Hi, Money Magicians. How are you? Welcome to another episode of the Money Magic Podcast. My guest with me today is Mmatshilo, and she is incredible. She does work on African birthing practices. So she teaches people how to go back to to the way that we used to birth originally, right? But she's so much more than that. She's also an former activist. I say former because we've spoken about this a lot. And also, she is a midwife by training, but she also she's just completed her PhD in birthing practices, I believe in Indigenous birthing practices, but she's going to tell us more about herself. You guys are really in for a treat. She has always blown my mind because of her knowledge, and I know you guys are going to get so much from her. So if you've just joined, my name is Vangile, and I am the host of the Money Magic Podcast. And over to you, Mmatshilo. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's sunny. There's a thing about, just because people are going through so much, we forget to be grateful for simple things. Like the sun is out, it's not freezing, my plants outside are happy, all of that. So I'm grateful for life, I would say. Yeah.
I
And I
feel
think
you.
the biggest thing that I'm always grateful for is health. I'm one of those people who has been blessed with health, and I don't take that lightly at all.
Same. Do not take it lightly at
Yeah.
all, at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, can you please tell us who you are as a soul and what you do for a living?
As a soul, I think I'll start by saying this is my last life. I know that for a fact. Um, and I'm turning 65 at the end of this year. And as a result, it's almost like my assignments are accelerated, My daughter always makes a joke when they want me to do something and I refuse. Then she says, Mom, if you don't do this, you're going to come back, So that's something. Whenever she says that, then I do whatever it is. Even if I don't feel like doing it, I do it for the sake of not coming back. Yeah, so I am a soul that incarnated in a body of an African woman in this part of the world, born and raised in a village, born in a family of healers. My aunt was a healer, um, and I carry in the beginning, I used to feel that as a burden, but now I carry the privilege. It's not a burden anymore. I carry the privilege of carrying the legacy of healing. And I'd like to speak to this a little bit because it's so interesting that when we are called to healing and being initiated into our own knowledges, we kind of feel burdened by that. We carry that as moralo, as a baggage. But after matric and when you have been accepted to go and do medicine at Wits or University of Natal, it's something that you find exciting, something that you look forward to. So because I'm a product of Bantu education and also not that post 1994 education changed that much, because there's very little in our education that makes us realize that we are African, that teaches us about our histories, our philosophies, our psychologies, Education is still Eurocentric. So in a sense, education is still training us to go and look for work. Education does not make us focus on being, our being. It focuses on what we need to do to make a living. And making a living means going to water the dreams of someone else and not necessarily water your own dreams. So I'm this person who was born with a very inquisitive mind. My mother says that when I was a child, I never used to sleep as a baby, and I'm still insomniac up to this day. And mom says the only time that I would sleep is when she would strap me to her back and she kind of sits on her knees. That's the only time that I would sleep. And I've always been labeled as hectic, as a rebel, as a woman. I remember when I was growing up as a young woman, there was always pressure to do what other women do, be like them. If you want to be in a relation, who's going to marry you? And those are some of the things that I navigated as a girl. I am a mother of three beautiful souls who kind of chose me for a reason. They are all different, but they care for me differently. And when I talk about caring for me, maybe I should even say they are parenting me. They are parenting me differently, even as my kids. They understand the totality of my gift and why I am in this world. And each one has a contribution, to make. Somehow it's almost as if sometimes they make a joke that we understand why we chose to come through you. And that for me is a blessing. I'm a grandmother as well. My grandson is doing first year digital arts at University of Wits. And twin girls, rebellious. They are 4. Amazing, gorgeous, rebellious. And every time when I look at them, I tell myself that I'm doing this work for them. So that the stuff that I dealt with when I was a girl, hopefully they won't have to deal with that. They wouldn't have to conform. They wouldn't have to conform so that they can be approved and liked and have a life. I'm hoping that by the time they are young women, it will be a world where women have permission to have it all. That we cease from being told that you have to do this for you to get that. That you can be successful and prosperous in everything, in family, in your work, in everything. And I always say that success and prosperity and joy must be our default. Must be a place where we operate from. So yeah, this is basically who I am.
Oh, wow. Thank you so, so much for that. Do you feel like you've had to conform? I ask this because for me, you've always been one of the women that I've looked up to who has lived a life of nonconformity, as someone who has openly struggled to conform myself and has just gave that up a while back. And what do you think are the traumatic effects of conforming and going against our own souls?
Yes, I think I struggled with conforming. For as long as you are raised in this sexist society,
Mm,
this is still a man's world, in my view, right? For as long as you are raised in this society, when you choose to go against the grain, it comes with a price, right? But then you have to kind of do a cost-benefit analysis. What you gain, what you lose when you conform and when you don't conform, right? What I find is that if I conform, I lose myself.
mm,
And that for me is much more painful than losing a relationship or losing something material or losing a job. Losing someone or losing a job is something external. It's
mm,
something that can be replaced. But when I lose myself, for me, it's as good as not being alive. So the price of conforming, even when that voice inside of you, your soul says, no, this is not what I want.
mm,
And you have to do it because, the world of materiality requires you to do that, as an example. But I always say to people that the universe, the goddess is also very kind. When we struggle within the world of materiality, sometimes, the universe cuts you some slack to say,
mm,
yes, you can conform for some time when
mm,
you are still creating a plan of
mm,
doing what you love, or kind of taking the journey that is custom designed for you. So it's not like an all or none kind of a thing.
mm,
It's a matter of like negotiating, but also being clear as you negotiate your way, being clear as to what is a no for me.
mm,
Once you know what's a no for you, I can't remember who, this guy who wrote the book Seat of the Soul, um, says that if your soul can be bought, um, there's going to come a time in your life where you're going to be offered a price that you can't refuse.
mm,
So when you have a no, and when you know what your no is, even when they offer you that price, especially that big price comes when you are down and out,
mm,
and then your no kicks in, and you refuse to take it. So
mm,
it's almost like a dance, it's almost, life is like a dance. Sometimes you conform for some time to buy yourself time, but
mm,
knowing that this is not my path, ultimately, when I'm feeling stronger, either psychologically, spiritually, or financially, I will then, pursue my path.
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
yeah.
Oh, I love that. So basically, I'm also hearing that we get to work with life. So we don't have to struggle, that there are times when it makes sense to conform because for the sake of ease at a later date to
Yeah,
get to
yeah,
the way of
yeah,
to get to
yeah,
non-conformity.
yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And
So
interestingly, I mean, I find it interesting what you are saying. It's almost like saying sometimes it's okay to struggle for the sake of ease, you know.
yeah.
It's a contradiction somehow.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. definitely. But I hear it. I've often been good with that.
Yeah,
Been always good with that. But there are times when I found that, at least in 2023, where I was like, you know what, I'm not big on working like crazy, but it is crunch time. I have a book to release and I have a business to run. So big girl panties, and this is where you call in your resilience because life is also about flow. It's in those moments that we are building that resilience and persistence, but it doesn't mean that we always have to be on, which I've learned that most of us are not aware that
yeah,
we basically take that too far, that I've got to be resilient at all times. So our nervous systems are always in hypervigilance mode,
yeah,
always on. We don't know how to switch off, so we don't know how to calm down. And
yeah,
that's why it's so hard for so many of us, especially Black women, to just rest and just be still, right?
yeah,
It doesn't feel safe to rest. It doesn't feel safe to be still.
yeah.
But I'm very interested in your journey. We've been talking a little about journeys so far. You've been talking about that. So, how did you get to this point where you are now teaching about African birthing practices? And why is this so important for women as we are giving birth in the new modern way?
Yeah. It's an amazing thing. It's a 360-degree turnaround in my life. My first career was when I was 17. I went to train as a nurse and a midwife,
Mm,
and I delivered, I think, about 100 babies
mm,
in Bushbuckridge. At that
mm,
time, I was a young woman,
yeah.
and in the nursing training, there was no mention about the sacredness of birth.
Mm,
There was no mention about birth consciousness.
mm,
Um, there was no mention about the psychology and the neurobiology of birth.
mm,
So the medical model of childbirth is just mechanical.
mm,
In fact, the way that babies are born now, they're not necessarily born. They are yanked out of their mother's bodies. It could be either through cesarean section, taken out, or with forceps or vacuum extraction. So there is a lot of interference.
mm,
There is a lot of interference, I mean, when the baby is coming out. So why I'm saying that is a 360-degree is that I read last year when I was doing my PhD, there's someone who wrote quite a lot about um, you know, different dimensions of childbirth. Professor Davis Floyd, who is a woman who is in the US.
mm,
What caught my attention as I was reading, she made mention of the fact that the midwives, the women who are trained as midwives are fresh out of school, right?
mm,
They are fresh out of school, and it's easy for us to absorb what is said to be authoritative knowledge without
yeah.
questioning it, because we
Mm,
have not lived a life, right?
mm,
Um, what was different in the past is when you start menstruating or you are like you reach childbearing age, you would be invited to witness childbirth.
mm,
Um, when a woman is giving birth, surrounded by elders, your role would just to be there to witness the process of childbirth. And
yeah.
I refer to that as antenatal care. It
Yeah.
starts then. It starts then by you observing the miracle of a whole head coming out of a woman's vagina.
Sure.
You witness that, and you witness this baby crying for the first time. You witness the incantations made by the elders. The oldest member of the family will be sitting there in the corner, calling the kind of isithakazelo of the family, so that this baby comes out, and the first thing that it hears is its family praise. You witness all of that. You witness like childbirth rituals, how the placenta is buried, at what time, where, and why. So all of that I'm learning now in my 60s. So basically, I'm unlearning some of what I learned during my biomedical training, and I'm learning something that I was supposed to, if this world was equal, if our education took from knowledge from the knowledge of our ancestors, I would know that from the time that I was 17, 18, 19, 20. I would know that I would have that knowledge.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just a fascinating thing. I reflected on the fact that we are born violently.
Yes.
The way that we are yanked out or pulled out, it's violence.
Yes.
And what mothers experience is violence. One of the elders that I spent time with in Sabi said something amazing, and this is someone who's never been to a conventional school. Was talking about when a baby comes out, that at that point when the head has to come out, there has to be something that happens in your mind, almost like you lose your mind for a split second. So that this major mystery must happen through you. And I listened to her and I wrote that down, and I came back and read about birth consciousness, and noticed that there are scholars who are writing about that.
Yeah.
Who are writing about what's happening. We need to, at that time, it's important for us to have altered consciousness. And at the time when you have altered consciousness, that's when the people who are helping you in the hospital shouts at you or kind of beat at you and scream at you. One elder that I spoke to in Northern Cape says, when you beat up the mother, the baby gets scared and kind of retreats a little bit. And that is something that I have reflected on. I was reflecting on me being born in a place of noise and violence, and picking up my mother's fear energetically, and feeling like I don't want to be born, but I can't stay in my mother's womb forever. I have to come out. So the question is, I'm born with fear already.
Yes.
I'm born into a space of fear because my mother is afraid, and I can feel the commotion, and I can pick up energetically, that this is not necessarily a safe space. And then the medical model defines that as safe birth. Safe birth for them is because the baby is alive.
Yeah.
There is no measure of what is happening to this soul that has just stepped into the earth realm. So my work has got different elements to it. The first element is being on this tip of arguing that we can't talk about decolonizing this, kind of reclaiming land, all of these things that we talk about without embracing the deeper essence of our knowledge. But in that embracing of our knowledge, we should also understand that we have been colonized, right?
Yes.
So by virtue of being colonized, we bring all kinds of splits, right? And we should be aware some of the splits are oppressive, even though we refer to them as our culture.
Yeah.
Some of these splits are oppressive. I'll give you an example. At one time, I was in Skukuza, I was talking to an elder. We're talking about why there's a difference. After birth, a baby is kept inside the house for some time, and a girl is kept for 2 months, I think, and she said that the boy is kept for 3 months. And I asked, why is that? And she says, no, the Bible says so. So then you are aware now that we are talking about indigenous knowledge that's been Christianized.
Yes.
And all those contradictions we should be aware of. And they're bound to happen.
Yes.
Because we have been colonized and we carry different splits inside of us.
Wow. I'm so glad that you brought up that about the splits, because I think it's so important to recognize that as we deal with Indigenous knowledge, right? One of the other things that I wanted to talk about is just what you said about babies being yanked out of the womb. I was at Workland. I'm sure you've heard of them. They are
I've been there, yeah.
Yeah. And I went there for a weekend, and they do talks during those weekends. So I'll just give people a short clip of what Workland is. It's this place where you can go, and if you want to do water fasting, that's how they usually heal anything that you're struggling with. Well, I want to say anything, but almost anything. I did not do water fasting. I'm a big water faster, by the way, but I didn't go there for water fasting because their food is so delicious. So they have vegan food, they have vegetarian food, and it's just like this gorgeous retreat space. You get to do jacuzzis, they believe in healing through hydrotherapy and massage as well. So when I mention massage, people know, you know me, then you know what really drew me there. But in one of the talks, the doctor spoke about how with cesarean sections, what they're finding is that there is an increase there's a correlation between cesareans and autism, and that the risk of autism starts to decrease when a mother is, especially with boys, when the mother breastfeeds. So it starts to really go down. But with girls, what they find is it's not just autism, but it's more likely that women, as they get older, they will struggle with mental health and depression and all other things. So due to scheduled cesareans. This is the opposite of you are in the middle of birthing and then a cesarean has to be performed.
Yeah.
And they also find that obviously those risks start to decrease. The risks of mental health or mental health incidents start to decrease when a mother breastfeeds. But I found that very interesting, because I've always felt that when you disturb a soul from their slumber, it comes at a huge cost. So I wanted to ask, have you come across similar research, especially for your PhD?
No, I haven't come across that because my research question was the role of Indigenous midwives in countering obstetric violence. So within that, I looked at the birth space itself, the design architecture of the birth space is important, and it's one of the modules that I speak about in my course, that if you look at the hospital, there's bright lights 24 hours, there's noise, there's movement all the time. And I'm also like one who likes, in terms of architecture, I'm kind of more likely to prefer round spaces because of the significance of a circle in African cosmology, all of that. That's the stuff that I looked at, and the interference, incessant vaginal examination, how mothers are spoken to. So I haven't come across that because I didn't focus on that research question per se. But my general answer would be, it's a process that has been interrupted, right?
Yes.
And a simple question would be, I think I read it in Women Who Run with the Wolves,
Yes.
that a situation where a caterpillar is in a cocoon. I think someone took a caterpillar that's been in a cocoon and created an atmosphere that almost makes that cocoon crack artificially.
Mm.
The butterfly came out, but it couldn't fly because the wings were not ready.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
there is a reason for process.
Yeah.
For the baby for the baby's lungs to be compressed when it goes through the vaginal canal, compressed, and when it comes out from the compression is there are those simple things in the nature of birthing that prepares this little thing to come out, and many of that we interfere with.
Sure. That is just so, so powerful, what you've just said, hey? Um, so how do you think, as we are entering into this really, really violent space, because there is another podcast guest that mentioned this in one, I can't remember the podcast episode, and we spoke about this, where she chose to birth her own children at home. And she spoke a lot about the violence of hospitals, the harsh lights, the environment, the sterility of it all. So, what would be the alternative when you look at this? And how do you think the way that we're doing it is contributes to just family dynamics and trauma?
Firstly, I don't want to, even those of us who want to have alternative births, I don't want to minimize the possibility of complications and what will happen, if you don't have immediate help. So I do not want to minimize that possibility. But I find that more and more women choose to give birth at home. One of the safest countries to give birth in the world, for instance, is the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Why? Because there's a policy that you can choose to give birth at home. You'll be assigned a midwife to be with you at home, right? So home birth is not frowned upon. Instead, they have found a way of like accentuating the physical safety of home birth. And I emphasize physical safety because there's other kinds of safety. There's cultural safety, there's spiritual safety. So I think also one overriding issue in contemporary birthing practices is fear, right?
Yes.
You know, you just carry this child in fear, and incidentally, there's such a lot of information online, you know. There's so many courses on antenatal care, but a lot of them are about, I always say that they're like the 10 commandments. Don't do this, don't do that, you know. And most of the time without explaining the pros and cons of the choices. And when you explain the pros and cons, you can't do that. The system can't do that because childbirth is an industry. If you give people choice and information, and obviously it impacts on the industry. I mean, there are some countries in Africa, I don't know which countries, I think it's Uganda, I'm not sure, where it's Uganda. Uganda, actually, I was looking at a podcast. The Minister of Health was in a meeting in the community and saying to the chief of police, making him stand up and saying that if you find any woman in the village helping to deliver a baby, arrest them, right?
What?
So indigenous midwifery is a criminal offense. And there are in certain countries where the indigenous midwife's role is to accompany the woman to hospital. And because people are poor, you know that you're going to get a few dollars by bringing a woman to hospital. So this whole thing of not addressing the general economic situation of African women and abusing that poverty, you know, manipulate. It's more like giving food parcels. You know, instead of giving food parcels, you should be giving people land and implements and seeds and opening up the market for them so that they can produce their own food. So the whole thing of the political economy of childbirth is tied to the political economy of the continent and other developing countries. It's not something as simple as choosing, I'm going to have a hospital birth or I'm going to have a home birth. And yeah, that area of the politics of childbirth is something that is close to my heart, as much as the politics of knowledge production. Because knowledge is contested territory, right?
Yes.
A lot of the knowledge that we use, we didn't create. We consume it, but we did not necessarily create. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for that. I guess then, in that case, understanding that, especially about the politics, I know the childbirth industry is becoming heavily politicized. And there are certain countries where Uganda is not the only country, even in some so-called developed countries, there are laws being passed about how women can give birth, right? And the belief is that it protects women, but that's a whole other thing. That it can protect the mother and the child, but whole other dynamics there. But I wanted to ask, so what can be done for, say, a woman that has now found herself in this position where she didn't know, she didn't understand about certain birthing practices, but now a child is either about to be born, they've been scheduled for a cesarean with a doctor, we're not taught how to advocate for ourselves. How do they advocate for themselves, especially when doctors in Western medicine supersedes all other types of healing? And now and then my next question after that is, if you've already given birth to this child, and maybe you've already scheduled the cesarean, everything is happening. How do you help them calm their nervous system after this traumatic experience?
Yeah. Before birth, there are different ways in which you can choose.
Mm,
There is a mushrooming of birthing homes in many
mm,
countries, right? And in the birthing homes, it's almost like midwives taking back childbirth uh,
mm,
from obstetricians. So it's something that is growing in many countries. But for South Africa, it will be a challenge because, some successful birthing homes end up being bought by this kind of private hospitals.
mm,
And when they're bought by private hospitals, what do? Their focus is on profit, nothing
mm,
else but profit. And therefore, they change the rules. So it's no longer woman-centered. It's no longer a mother-centered process. It's a profit-driven process. So in the short term, I get a lot of requests from people who say that I'd like to have my baby at home. What should I do? I'm trying, to compile a database of midwives who are willing to support women who want to give birth at home. But I'll tell you what, the sad thing is the majority of home-based midwives are white.
mm. I've seen that.
Not Black women. Why? Because, it's also about, I've thought about it. I've thought about the reason why. If you have not been colonized, there is a certain way that you take risk, number one, right? And also that a lot of Black midwives prefer security, right?
Yes.
They
Yes.
prefer security. They prefer working in an institution. And we
Mm,
all know where that comes from. It's not an issue just of midwives. It's an
yeah.
issue of most Black professionals
Mm,
that we are comfortable working in an institution. That's what
yes.
we call security, because
Mm,
there is a much bigger risk of going your own and doing something on your own.
mm,
And there is also evidence for many who have tried that they fail and they end up going back to the institution. I think this
yeah.
is a bigger topic that we need to talk about at some point to understand why that is the case.
Yeah.
Um, and once you have given birth and you have experienced trauma, yes, there is a way of healing that trauma.
Mm,
Firstly, as a mother, you might end up blaming yourself, having
mm,
made that choice, right?
mm,
We deal with that. Blame and shame and guilt are three emotions that are dangerous as far
mm.
as women and womanhood are concerned.
Yep.
Those emotions are the ones that are used to make us feel less than.
Mm,
And those are the emotions that are used to make us conform. So it's
mm,
possible to work with her, that to heal how she feels about the choice that she has made. And for
mm,
her to know that she did the best she could do at that time because that's
mm,
the information that was available to her.
mm,
Right? You kind of start from there. There's a danger as well to forget that a woman who chooses a cesarean section, being fully informed, is her choice, right?
yes.
We mustn't say everyone must have natural birth, everyone must do this, it's not possible,
Yeah.
I could have a low tolerance of pain, or even if I can take pain, but I don't want to deal with that pain, right? And then choose an epidural, as long as I have been informed about the pros and the cons of epidural. So this impacts on women differently. It's not like a universal impact. And there's a danger as well for those who did not have natural births, that they were less, then they're labeled as less of a woman. Right. I mean, I remember reading a paper at some point, someone say, taking it like a man, kind of a thing, right? You take it
Sure.
like a man. If you don't want to go through that pain, it's okay. You take it like you.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know your threshold. You know what you want. My main thing is, as long as you know the advantages and disadvantages, and also saying that despite everything, this is my choice.
Yes.
And then our role is to respect that choice. If you make that choice and you end up with trauma, we don't turn around and point a finger at you and say, what did you expect? Right? From a place of compassion, knowing that as women all over the world, we are forced to make difficult choices. Whoever it is who's working with such a woman is working from that place of compassion, with an understanding that this is what we go through as women generally.
Wow. Oh, I love that. So I have just a few more questions, but like I really, really love that answer. Thank you, because you just talked about respecting and honoring what a woman wants to do with her own body, that it is always her choice, because after all, this is your body. So I love that. But how do you then support the soul that you brought into this world? What are some I guess I know in our cultures in South Africa and African culture, in I would say African cultures, because we're so diverse, there are many ways in which we then support a baby. I didn't understand for years why. Now that I do the work that I do, I have such a deeper understanding and respect for some of our practices. Like, why do you keep a baby indoors for a while? Why do you want to separate a baby? Like, I started to see certain things. It's also about energies. You want that child to just have the energy of themselves and the mother or whoever is in the house. We all carry so many different energies, and children do not have the nervous system to be, or don't have the spiritual know-how as yet to protect themselves, right? And it's not necessarily, I'm not talking about dark energies. I'm just talking about the fact that all of us have different dysregulations with our nervous systems, and a child basically can tag onto our nervous systems and then start to regulate or co-dysregulate to a nervous system. So what are some things that we can be aware of and how to support a baby's nervous system as when they're still young, just right after birth? I just mentioned one.
Right. This even starts pre-conception. I mean, there's rituals that are done before you conceive.
Yeah.
Where you invite the soul to come through you. So once the soul agrees, then already you've created a safe space for it. I mean, I always tell a joke that there was a little girl who kept on wanting to come through me. And at a very late stage in my life.
Mm.
And I kept saying no to it. I kept saying no to it. Why? Because I wouldn't be able to be like there for it in a way that a mother should, you know. So preconception rituals, inviting the soul to come, and conception rituals as well. Once you have conceived, thanking the soul for having agreed to come through you. Rituals that you do, talking to the baby as the baby grows inside of you. The role of the father, for instance, would be to recite isithakazelo to the baby during pregnancy, because later on during the naming ceremony, the old woman when the baby comes out of the heart, the birthing heart, the first person that the baby is handed to is the father. And then the father is going to recite that praise poem that he has been reciting during pregnancy. And the connection, it has already been made. So those are some of the things that we do. The naming ceremonies, what I found when I was speaking to elders in Bushbuckridge was that in the past, each one of us used to be born with a birth song. That
Yes.
there would be a song that is sung especially for you. Especially when during the ritual of you being taken out of the birth, out of isolation. And the amazing thing is that you're taken out of isolation during full moon. And the song that they sing for you is the kind of essence of the message is the moon is your friend, right? At age as a baby, you are already introduced to celestial bodies. You are aware as a baby that there's something called the moon. And the people who are singing for you are the little ones, the toddlers and the small ones are the ones who are singing for you that song. So those are some of the ways in which we kind of hold the soul. And obviously, you've also spoken about the isolation of the mother and the baby. And again, here there's a danger of a biblical interpretation, which is seen that you're isolated because the woman's body is dirty, dirty stuff comes out of you. There is that interpretation. In the
What?
same way, in the same way as menstrual blood is seen as dirty and evil. So there are some kind of interpretations of that isolation. Yeah, they have to be isolated. That's why the woman is not supposed to cook, not to touch anything, because they are dirty, right? So we should be aware of all of that. In all my postpartum experiences, it doesn't matter where I lived, my aunt always came. My aunt was always the first person to bath my babies, right? And she did the rituals. I kind of saw that being done with my kids, and I know the experience of being isolated and being massaged and cooked for and resting. All you need to do, all I remember was just me and this baby, just looking into it as a reminder of the mystery. At the time when I wasn't with my extended family, when my aunt was far away, my dad and my mom, I remember that experience that they had shifts through the night. The funny thing is my father, when it was my father's turn to come and take the baby from me during the night so that I can sleep, he would take the baby, forget the nappy, forget this, forget that. So it was always funny that I knew that he's going to do a few trips, into the room, as compared to mom, who knows that it will just come and fetch the kid and this and this and this and that.
Mm.
It's a beautiful thing for a new mother to experience. That love, that care, that support. It helps with the production of the hormone oxytocin, which is important for the production of breast milk. It's not just about the food that you eat. When you feel loved and cared for,
Mm.
then there's a release of those hormones in your body, which makes it possible for you to love the baby because you
Mm.
feel cared for. So it's just this cycle of love, that
Mm.
that is happening during the isolation.
Wow. Oh, wow. I just loved hearing that. This comes a day after I watched a very traumatic TikTok video. Traumatic as a woman. The woman filmed her husband, didn't show his face, didn't show her face, but just his feet. They're in the UK. And he is asking her, his parents are coming to visit. She just got out of the hospital, her second day out of hospital, as they explain in the TikTok video. He is asking her, leave the baby and go make my parents meatloaf and go cook.
Yeah.
And she's explaining, I can't do that. And his response to that is, all you're doing all day is you're sitting and watching this baby. You've already been to the hospital. What is the big deal? And it just hit me that there is no real understanding when men are being taught about the birthing process in the West, right? They were a white couple, but I feel like it's even seeping into Africa and African culture as well, right? It's that there is no real understanding of what this process is. And so this is why this man could just say, all you do is you're sitting there, it's 2 days already. Get up and go cook, do something clean. I was like, cook. She was like, I can't do that.
That's capitalism for you. Why am I saying that? Productive labor is a kind of preferred as compared to reproductive labor is not seen as labor because it's not tied to profit, right? So when you are sitting and caring for a child, you are seen as not doing anything. When I work with rural women, in some of my gender transformation work, there's an exercise called 24-hour day, right? And in that 24-hour day, you break down what you do every 24 hours. And then what we do, we make scenarios. Okay, in this family, there's a mother and a father and a breastfeeding baby. In this family, the mother is working, the father is not working, but there's a baby. So we do different scenarios. And what you would find is that all the mothers would say, I'm not working. But they are the first one to wake up at 4 in the morning, right? To prepare for school, for this, for that, for that. But capitalism regards what they do as not work because it's not counted in the GDP. So it's not work. So that's also, a big problem in a sense that this thing is not seen as work, even though the economy would want, kind of people to work it. But where people are manufactured, is not taken seriously. It's not supported, you know. So when he says that, I think it's someone who's saying reproductive labor, anything that women do is not work. And most of the things that women do can be undone. As an example, when you wash the dishes, they're clean now. In no time, they're dirty again. But if you're a construction worker, when you build a house, you cannot do it unless you kind of break it down to renovate it. So there are all those elements that kind of points to the fact that women's work is perceived not to be work.
Wow. It's invisible labor for sure. So I've just been like, wow, there's so much. When I saw that video, wow, I was so hurt because there's generally a lack of understanding. And with that, I think it's also why we're losing that community when a mother has birth, because people don't, because we're losing that sacredness of it all. So I really want to say, I appreciate how you spoke about that communal aspect and the fact that, like, with us, when we birth, usually a mom, an aunt, a cousin, someone comes and they help for the first 2 to 3 months so that the mother can just rest. And that does a lot for our body, right? I think that personally, my personal opinion, I believe that because we are losing that, and we're not allowed to just rest and be, the womb is becoming extremely traumatized because she's not getting time to heal properly and just really also just absorb that experience. What you've spoken about the altered consciousness, a friend of mine wrote I guess like an article, but privately for all her close friends. And she spoke about that feeling that when she was doing the pushing and the last push, she felt like she lost, she felt connected to the cosmos, she lost all sorts of herself, basically, you know? So that's really, really interesting that you mentioned that. My final question to you, Mmatshilo, you mentioned very much about the birth story. I love what you mentioned because I realized that when you said that you usually would kneel down or like call a soul from the spiritual realm, my mom says she did that with my sister and I, but she was advised by a traditional healer. So a lot of things that you mentioned, she did, but that's because she was told that it was the only way that we were going to come through onto this plane. She was trying, she's also a nurse by profession, a midwife, and she tried all the Western ways, and she says this was the only way that she felt pregnant. What do you, in your opinion, what do you think is the importance of people understanding their birth stories and mothers understanding the birth stories of their child, how a child behaves in the womb, and how does that connect to money? Because this is the Money Magic Podcast, in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, one of my children was born with an umbilical cord tied around its neck, right? And a healer came with a herb that helped to speed the progress of labor. But that time we didn't know about the cord, right? And the healer that I was working with a healer and a midwife at that time. It helped to speed the progress of labor, and as a result, the baby was born before any further complications could happen around the cord. So in my conversation, he knows the story. In my conversation, with him, we're always like, you had to be here. Even that cord couldn't stop you. So somehow that becomes your mantra, right? In life. in your achievement, in your relationship with money, it becomes your foundation. That you are here, you had to be here. I mean, for me, as the first child of a man and a woman who loved each other, I always talk about, I think I was conceived through love, because I was born like a year later after they were married. And my dad tells a story that when he saw my mother the first time, he knew that that's the one, right? So I come from that story of love. Like a man sees this woman and say, that's it. That is going to be the mother of my children. And I become the first one that comes, right? So I'm conceived through love. And I understand why I do the work that I do. Right? My healing work is more around compassion. But obviously, at that time, when I was an activist, you have to numb yourself to fight certain battles. You have to numb yourself to be able to fight those battles. But now, after having been through what I've been through, kind of let go of the hardness, unhardening my heart, allowing myself to receive love and give love, and also now my work is becoming a work of love, as they say, work is love made visible. My work is becoming love being made visible because of my backstory. That's how I interpret it. What was a problem was along the way, I was chosen to be a healer, and I had already been through an education system that messed up my mind. I fought against the idea of being a healer, that messes up your relationship with money. And then only later, when you harmonize all of who you are, when you understand that money is spirit, that you can attract, and you have the power to manifest it, because inside of yourself you're whole. So all of that, is what happened with regard to your best story. But also talking about the best story, what then if you are conceived through rape, right? Because I do see, a mother and a son sometimes who are conceived through rape, and the mother struggling to love the baby because of how the baby was conceived. So we go beyond this. We go beyond this story to try and find deeper meaning, as to why are you here and why did you choose to come in this way? So working with the mother and the son to understand in a deeper way, why they chose to be together in this way, in this lifetime, is also something that elevates the negative story. It kind of transforms, because my story is a positive story. What if it's a so-called negative story? Then what you do is engage with it in such a way that you have a deeper understanding of why that's the case, and transform it for yourself. Stories are about interpretation.
Yes.
You reinterpret it in a way that makes sense for you in this world now. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I love that. So I thought that was my last question, but then I quickly got like a voice saying, wait, sis, how's this your last question? We want to hear about the course. This is the critical knowledge that needs to be shared on this podcast. So, Mmatshilo, you've created what I believe is a beautiful, beautiful offering to the world. And it's a course where you go deeper in this and you share the practical knowledge. Please, can you tell us how about the course, how people can sign up, when does it start, everything?
Yeah. I was just reflecting on how blessed I am that I have access to all the elders that I have access to. And essentially when I arrive, anywhere I arrive, it's almost like they've been waiting for me, right? The connection is instant. And what
Yeah.
they teach me, they give selflessly.
Mm,
And it may just made me aware that there is a need to curate that into a course, but not in isolation.
mm,
This is the first offering of Africa Ikalafe Pluriversity.
mm,
And basically what I'm doing is building an
mm,
academy of indigenous knowledge.
mm,
And why I choose to call it a pluriversity is because it's about honoring a pluriverse of knowledges. Because the way that we are taught in a university, we are
mm,
taught the one way of knowing. We are not taught kind of multiple ways of knowing. So this course is designed as the first offering of Africa Ikalafe Pluriversity. And what it does is that it speaks about the philosophy, the politics, of African birthing, but focusing a lot on African spirituality. What is the
mm,
spirituality of childbirth? Um, it is, we start on the 30th of May to 15th of November, but it's open now for enrollment. There's different modules. We start talking about is childbirth a spiritual experience?
mm,
That is our beginning. Is childbirth a spiritual experience? We talk about the womb as a carrier of life and also as a carrier of pain.
mm,
We also talk about the history of biomedical medicine, which originated in the West and it was exported to Africa during colonialism. It was such a
mm.
shock for me when I read about uh, nursing uniform of that time, the uniform that we used to wear when I was doing nursing in mission hospitals.
Yeah.
That the imperial nurses were specifically given a list of things to wear. And that's exactly what I was wearing in Bushbuck Ridge, you know?
So,
So things like that was like, wow. So we talk about that. We talk about the role of the state and the church and how birthing was taken away from women in the West. By the time medical missionaries landed in the Cape of Good Hope, they had
mm,
already fought, they had already taken childbirth away from women. And they landed in Africa. They found that indigenous women know everything about birthing. So there was some regulation that needed to happen to stop indigenous women from continuing to give birth. We do, evolution and history of indigenous midwifery in Africa. I give examples in different African countries, but focusing mainly on South Africa. We talk
mm,
about birth space, architecture. When did we have a bed as furniture in a birthing room? And why is it in the middle of the room? It's high and it's in the middle of the room. What is the reason for such a bed? It's for the convenience of the healthcare practitioner, uh, not for the comfort of the woman. So all of those things are things that we talk about. We talk about birth stories, childbirth rituals, including the role of the father, in childbirth rituals. In that case, then it's open for midwives, doulas, parents, even young men and young women who do not have kids, but who want to know how to prepare for spiritual welcoming of their kids if they choose to have babies. It's open for men. It's open for mothers who have experienced trauma as a way of releasing that trauma. So as I say, it's open now, and between now and end of May, we will be running a series of free webinars. For instance, the one webinar that I want to do is that the law gives you days to register a baby.
How many days?
I can't remember. I think it's 14 days to register, and then there's late registration. So my question, I want to answer this. I want to ask this question: Is the law of the country with regard to registration of babies, does it not violate mothers, especially mothers who believe that they need to stay home for a certain period of time? That would be one of the webinars. Another webinar is going to be like a celebration of Indigenous midwifery. I'll be talking to midwives from New Zealand, US, Africa. So before the end of May, there'll be a series of webinars, and we start on the 30th of May. Then next year, for the year, I will be running a series of retreats, cultural immersion retreats, groups of people moving from one village to the other, sitting at the feet of the elders and learning from them. So this year is online. Next year, those who can join us in moving from one place to the other. And to register, it's learn@africaikalafe.org. If you go to learn@africaikalafe, Africa with a K, africaikalafe.org, you get information about the course itself.
Oh, you mean learn.africaikalafe.org.
Yeah. Learn.africaikalafe. Yeah. Right. Learn.africaikalafe.org.
And guys, we'll also have that in the description. I have seen the curriculum of the course. It is absolutely incredible. So, wow, please check it out. I think it's going to be amazing. And knowing you, and guys, if you've listened, Money Magicians, to this podcast, you can see that Mmatshilo has incredible knowledge, right? So, thank you so much for joining us, Mmatshilo. Do you have any closing words before I say my goodbyes to people?
Right. My closing words is to honor you, Vangile, for the work that you do, for how you have been consistent, even in your defiance of the rules of the world. And I know that with defiance comes pain sometimes, comes a lot of loneliness. We might see you there speaking and not know the moments that you face alone. So I just want to give you a hug and honor you also for agreeing to walk your path.
Thank you. I don't think we talk a lot about just what it costs sometimes to walk this journey.
Yeah.
But it is so fulfilling. So thank you so much, Mmatshilo. And guys, as usual, do check out the free 7-day tapping into ancestral money wisdom training at wealthy-money.com/training. But more than anything, if you enjoyed this podcast, you enjoyed this knowledge coming through, please share it with others, share it far and wide. You can imagine how many mummies would benefit from this particular podcast episode, right? So do share it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. and listen on Spotify, download on Podbean, leave us comments on YouTube. And hopefully by the time you guys are listening to this, we'll be back on Apple Podcasts. So leave us a review, leave us a 5-star review, and just share all this. Thank you so much, Mmatshilo. Thank you so much, Money Magicians, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.